Hello, my name is Sara Alvarez and I'm with Manatee County Parks and Natural Resources. Today we're here at Riverview Point Preserve to celebrate Manatee County's Hispanic heritage. You may have known that Hispanic Heritage Month spans from September 15th to October 15th.
Florida was named after Spain's Easter celebration known as Pascua Florida, or Feast of Flowers, by explorer Juan Ponce de Leon on his arrival from Spain in 1513. As evidenced by the architecture of cities like St. Augustine, we had not one but two Spanish periods from 1513 to 1763 and from 1783 to 1821. Florida did not become a U.S. territory until 1821.
We have over 250 years of Spanish influence. What a rich history. Manatee County's coasts were settled early on by Cuban fishermen. The settlements that these Cuban fishermen made were called Cuban Ranchos. Ranchos were a hub of commerce and trade where fishermen and Native American workers lived together during the height of fishing season.
Hi, my name is Kristen Sweeting. I'm the supervisor at the Florida Maritime Museum, a part of the Manatee County Clerk of Circuit Courts. Cuban Ranchos are a unique part of Florida history that often doesn't get told. So, Cuban Ranchos are the first commercial fishermen in Florida. They arrived on the coast in the mid-1700s and came to Florida in search of new fisheries. A lot of people come to the museum and they ask, why Florida? The answer is because Florida has a bountiful Gulf Coast that is able to provide not only for their families, but for their country. Cuban ranchos are important to Florida history because they offer a more inclusive perspective of how the state came to be. So when you first think of Cuban fishermen that participated on these ranchos, you might think that it was only those fishermen that were involved. But in actual fact, you would find indigenous populations on a Cuban rancho as well as runaway slaves, many of them intermarrying and cohabitating in the same community.
This intermingling of culture can be seen across Florida in people like Spanish Indians and Black Seminoles.
So the Cuban Ranchos would have come to Florida originally as on a part-time basis. And so they would arrive in mid to late August and then leave to return to Cuba by March to make sure that they were home for Lent.
The period of Lent would increase their fish sales. After Lent, during the non-fishing season, they would transport salt for the Spanish government, leaving during spring and returning early in the summer, just in time to rest their ships during the height of hurricane season.
And so the life of the commercial fishermen is not an easy one. And so when they arrived in Florida, if this was their first trip, they would have to construct their own rancho. So rancho is a term that is used for not only the hut that they would reside in, but also the business as a whole. So they would have to construct their rancho and to prepare for the upcoming season. If this was their second season, then they would actually have to return to the coast, repair their rancho in order to start fishing, because imagine hurricane season doesn't end till November 30th, so imagine the storms that would have crossed their path during that time without any warning.
Ranchos were composed of palmetto thatch houses held by wooden posts. These were surrounded by fishing equipment and an area to dry and process the fish that they caught. Many even cultivated small gardens, and as the settlements became more permanent in Florida, acres of land containing different plants such as citrus, melons, pumpkins, corn, and so much more.
So some of the catches that Cuban ranchos would have come to Florida for were mullet, sea bass, pompano, trout, and even turtles.
The Cuban ranchos existed for over 100 years, leaving strong evidence and an influence all over our Gulf Coast.
the Cuban Ranchos left a legacy of acceptance. They worked with different cultures, different races, and even though many of them were part Spanish, they were discriminated against during the Second Seminole War, when many of them were removed from Florida with the Indian Removal Act along with other natives. The history of the ranchos is a reminder to us that Florida was built on multiple races and multiple nationalities. So they were the first commercial fishermen before any of the pioneer fishing villages that we may know today, and their importance will last forever and be a reminder of why Florida and our history is for everyone. If you're interested in learning more about Cuban Ranchos, you can visit the Florida Maritime Museum website at floridamaritimmuseum.org, where you'll be able to find a virtual exhibit on the Cuban Ranchos of Tampa Bay.
As you walk Manatee County's shores and mangroves, picture the old Cuban ranchos. Could you have made it out here as a Cuban fisherman? Thank you for joining us today to learn more about Cuban ranchos. For more videos, please tune in to our Facebook or YouTube page at Manatee County Parks and Natural Resources.